Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Lodgify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Leo. How's it going, buddy?
It's good. It's good today. Sun is shining, not a cloud in the sky. I love how I always seem to lead with that. We're like happy days, right?
We've done it. We've done it. We both have sunshine. I don't know how it's possible. It is sunny and beautiful. It was raining yesterday and it was absolutely disgusting in the morning. And then it got beautiful again. And today the sun is shining, not a cloud. So we finally figured it out.
Love it. And so obviously I've mentioned as well, I'm sure, that my city by the sea is a very big Airbnb short-term rental city in general. So you always see people wheeling suitcases around coming out of apartments. And I heard someone say this morning as they were wheeling, I guess they were checking out, they were leaving, and they were like, oh, apparently it's raining everywhere else in the country today. So we might be the only spot in the UK that doesn't have rain. So it's good to know we've got Barcelona's weather and not England's weather. How lucky are we, eh?
I know. Somebody must be suffering right now. So it's either the rest of the UK or our friends in France.
Yeah, our French cousins. Yeah, no, we're good. Weather's been great here. I've been swimming every day, running on the beach, swimming, having very good times. But yeah, we're about to get into a good period of weather, we hope, and we're kind of like, this is the best time of year in the UK, like June, July, or we have a very short period of good weather, but like June, July, August and September is phenomenal here. So yeah, very good. And it's also the countdown begins till I get to see you again in person. I think we're probably 3 weeks away, which is quite fun, isn't it?
I'm excited. It's going to be great.
Prop up that bar back together. Can't wait. How about you, buddy? I feel like you've had a busy old week this week, right?
I've had a super busy week. Yeah. Last weekend I was away for a friend's birthday party. So that was like full on all weekend. And then, we've had some folks out from Denver this week, in the office. And so that has been amazing. But also like lots of social activities. We had a big team event on the Wednesday. And then I had a friend's birthday last night. So it's just been like nonstop, but it's good. I keep saying I'm ready for a quiet weekend, but I actually have plans all day tomorrow. So I don't know what I'm saying.
We talk about this, people talk about the social battery, don't they? Needing to recharge the social battery. I feel like you're like me. I feel like you can sort of lightning speed charge yours and then go again. Is that right?
I can lightning speed charge, but if I try and do that too many times in a row, like I'm usually good at rallying. If it's like 2 or 3 days in a row, I can rally. When I get to the event, I want to murder everybody. But as soon as I start talking to a few people, then I get buzzed again, you know? But yeah, no, I think tonight is a sit at home with a tea and like turn on a film and like hold hands with Mauro and don't speak to anyone. Like that's kind of our pact.
That sounds perfect. That sounds great. I'd love to get involved in that. Come and hold both your hands. Sit down.
Come hold hands, have a tea, and don't speak to us. That's the rule.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic. Okay, gang. Well, look, let's get into it. We are firmly in summer season now because all of the newspapers and mainstream media outlets are getting in on the act, talking about the summer and over tourism and all of those things that we knew would get talked about. But I think we have to start this week with our highlight, let's say low light as well, with a bit of a focus on Spain, because Spain does seem to be in the news. Perhaps even it's fair to say, you can disagree, Sarah, but it feels like maybe Spain and its islands have this biggest challenge of people protesting tourists, and also potentially have the biggest challenge of over tourism. As you know, maybe I don't know what comes first, the protests or the over tourism. Clearly, it's a very, very, very popular destination, Spain. So yeah, I don't know. As our local on the ground, I don't know if you want to start and tell us what's kind of what we're focusing on quickly as a highlight.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it goes back to a couple of different things. I think it's a bit of a chicken or an egg kind of situation. And I think a lot of times as well, especially in many of these destinations, not everybody that's coming is a tourist. And we talk about this all the time, and I think it's not talked about enough. So I think there's two things going on. One, there is an over-tourism problem in many cities across Europe, and in particular in destinations like Spain that are beautiful tourist destinations. But there's also in the EU free movement of peoples. And we talk about this, like, why would you stay in a town that has terrible weather when you can go and live 6 months a year or 3 months a year or whatever it is and rent even a midterm rental? And so I think that a lot of that, I would be curious to see real facts, because oftentimes, as we talk about, there's no facts to back this up. It's sure there's tons of visitors, but what do you consider a visitor? Is that somebody who comes for 3 months to work from somewhere and then they're consuming, grocery store products and living more like a local? So I think there's a perception issue as well. I think there's an influx of people who are not originally from these towns that are now living in those towns. I know in Barcelona, it's a massive part of now the population, people who aren't from here. I'm one of those people, and it doesn't mean that I'm a tourist, but I know that when I walk down the street, when I'm, with a group of, let's say, some of my friends who are not from here and we're speaking in English, I know that like people have shouted at us, like, tourists go home, and I turn right around to them and like sass off to them because it's ridiculous. It's like, no, I've been here for 15 years. This is my home. I'm not a tourist. You can go somewhere. But yeah. So I think there's two things happening, right? I think oftentimes like the perception of locals is, well, rents are rising, blah, blah, blah. Okay, rents are rising because the city is becoming more popular. And there are people who are coming in with higher salaries, but that are doing life here. So I think there's both of those things. And that perception leads to, oh, it must be over tourism. And I think it's an oversimplification of the real problem. For sure, there are destinations now where, you've seen something on Instagram and it's beautiful, and now it's just overrun with people. You see these all the time, this like Instagram versus reality. Instagram looks beautiful. There's no one there because someone's woken up at 5 a.m. to take that video. And then you see the reality and it's literally just like hundreds of people, or you can't even see whatever it is you went to see. So I think there's both of those factors there. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But in Spain in particular, the sentiment for sure among locals, which means, and voters, which means that then the government is kind of forced to listen to a lot of these anecdotal comments. And it is a popular measure, right? So anything against over tourism, anything kind of that they can tell goes towards, oh, we're going to make housing more affordable. It's obviously popular with the masses. I think the problem is, again, it's not true. There's no evidence to support that it's short-term rentals that are rising, the main cause of rising rents. So, that's my soapbox. I'll start there. But if you want me to do just highlights of the, or lowlights, I guess you can say, of some of the articles. No.
Yeah, I always enjoy that you getting on the soapbox about this. And I agree with you that I always say it, so I won't go into it too much, but there's the old Europe versus New Europe. And New Europe are the younger generation deciding to open businesses in a hot beach town instead of in their northern European cities or somewhere else that they've come from within the continent. So they're not even people from outside the continent. It's very like, you walk around Barcelona as an example and you hear tons of different European languages being spoken, or you've got nomads, right, who do work for their company still in, let's say, for example, Munich, but choose to live in Barcelona because it's more affordable and has nicer summers, right? And frankly, nicer winters as well than Northern Europe. So yeah, I agree. It's an old v young problem. It's an upwardly mobile as well, educated class of European that wants to come and live in these places, potentially displacing a local group that hasn't had as many economic opportunities and might be struggling. You see that in Portugal as well. So it's an incredibly challenging debate, and then it's made even worse by the fact that it's really difficult to build houses, so people aren't building them, they're just throwing stones at each other. So actually giving basic services and provisions for populations, whether you had a very small amount of short-term rentals in your city or not, would probably still be struggling. But it's easy just to demonize the short-term rentals instead of maybe looking about how populations are starting to move around more, and digital nomadism is having an impact. We don't want to turn back the clock, clearly, right? So we want solutions to how people can all live in a city, and there can be kind of, you know, room for everybody, while also generating tourist dollars, which every city wants to do. So we looked at an article. Well done, Thibaut Masson, our good buddy at Price Labs, rental scale up, who has made it into the British tabloid press. Well done, Thibaut, to talk about this. So it's exciting. We're going mainstream. What I was going to say, the first thing that strikes me is that potentially, and potentially people like you and I on our soapbox have helped here, the conversation is starting to be more about over tourism and less just demonizing short-term rentals, potentially in the media, in the mainstream media, which is really interesting. People are talking about, like, what's the impact of being in this town if there's too many people here and the locals can't walk to the supermarket, right? Like, people are starting, the younger generation certainly is starting to think about that. And it seems here from the article that what they're suggesting is things like a tourist tax potentially don't work, because you're just saying to people, well, you can come, but it's going to cost you $10, right? And if it costs you $10, then you feel like you've paid your tax and you can come. Then actually more sort of aggressive policies do seem to have an impact. However, potentially somewhere like Spain, Greece, cities in particular like Barcelona and Athens, they're so well known, they're so sought after, that it kind of doesn't matter what you try and do unless you're going to have a cap on how many visitors are allowed to come, and that's cruise ships, hotels, short-term rentals, you know, people coming in for the day versus people coming in for the week. So it's a very, very challenging situation. But the headline from it is that even despite anti-tourism protests, bookings to Athens are up, bookings to Barcelona are up, which I think is very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, people want to, especially in the summertime, people want to go where they want to go. I think unless it's something super draconian, like actually you can't find a short-term rental, right? Which in Barcelona in the next few years, so far, it seems like could be a reality. I mean, the ban was upheld by the Spanish Supreme Court, even though the EU Commission said it's completely unfounded. So I think we're going to continue to see some of these things. I also think that a lot of the governments are struggling. They don't know how to fix the affordable housing crisis, especially in a place like Barcelona or some of these islands where supply is limited, and ultimately you don't want to overbuild, which I do understand, because then you have an overpopulation problem, not just an over-tourism problem. So I think it's a really delicate balance. And on the whole, I think oftentimes there isn't enough information for them to make the right decision. And I think also, I mean, how do you choose, right? The only way really is to make more houses. You have to open up, you know, make it easier to construct new houses. You have to make it easier as well to convert a lot of the space right now that is used. We talked about this in several episodes ago, but there's so much office space in Barcelona that people aren't using, that's empty, or where they could, you know, relax the laws for change of use. So changing a property that's currently only zoned for commercial, and even though it's in a residential building, right? This happens a lot where there might be, let's say, the first floor or the first 2 floors of buildings, oftentimes in Barcelona, are zoned just for commercial space. Whereas if they were to make it easier to convert those, and there's like a cap. So it's like in every building, you can't have more than X percent of the square footage, depending on the neighborhood and the zip code. It's all quite complex. And then it has to meet a series of requirements as well to be rezoned for an actual house or a residential property. But like, if we really want to make it easier, we really want to help. There's so many other ways to do that rather than demonizing short-term rentals in general. And the over-tourism problem, again, in a place like Barcelona, literally, we flew in the other day when we were coming back with my parents. We saw 5 cruise ships, 5. So I've just got to say that, like, that is an over-tourism problem, right? Like, start somewhere else. They're contaminating. I don't even want to think about how many people are on those ships. I think I Googled it that day, and it was like 5,000 people can be on one of those ships. Yeah, and they're here for a day, 2 days, times 5.
Yeah, and if you look at the share price of cruise ship companies, they are just absolutely skyrocketing. You know, like, there's only one company, there's only one group making money in that scenario, and it's the cruise ship. It's not the local economy. But anyway, we can talk about that stuff all day. let's move on because we do want to we want to go into the articles, but I'll just finish by saying the other thing that caught our eye this week in Spain was the fact that 65,000 Airbnb are being cited here in the article, but they'll obviously just be short-term rentals in general, are being removed. 65,000 in Spain, 65,000 non-compliant listings, because they're citing things like a lack of license numbers, transparency over who owns the property. So things that they've been threatening to do for a while, right, Sarah? It feels like we've been keeping up with this for a while. But I don't want us to go into it too much, but I'll just finish by saying, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't actually sound like that many listings, 65,000. So, if that's like Spain-wide, I'm sure, when you think about all the different tourist hotspots, that probably is a bit of a drop in the ocean. So if they think that might solve the over-tourism problem, or I don't quite know what's at play there. But, let's take it as what it is. Maybe they just want a more transparent system. But again, if that's the headline, I mean, it's a drop in the ocean for the overall tourist mix, right?
Yeah, I mean, also Airbnb, I mean, this is what Spain has ordered. Airbnb will appeal the government's order. So pretty much citing what the EU has said in their study, and basically saying there's no evidence of this rule breaking. It goes against EU and Spanish law. We will appeal. So, and they basically said, like, if you have a housing crisis, it's because you're not building enough houses. Anything else, you're using that as a distraction, and it's a scapegoat. So let's see what plays out. But I'm glad that they're, I guess, at least fighting back, because somebody has to, and they have the power behind them much more so than as much as we'd like to think than like a group of individual hosts, So it's nice to have some of the big dogs fighting against the governments on behalf of the industry as well with facts.
Yeah. And just keep into context, there was 93.8 million visitors to Spain in 2024. So, we're talking about really significant numbers. 65,000, I don't think is hugely significant. And as I always say, but I think it bears repeating, there is a growing middle class in India and China that want to come to Europe, who are just adding to this pool of people that see Europe as the destination to go to. So we need actual solutions, not just bans. Now, let's go on, because this, I think, plays into it, but it's a really interesting one. The Balearics push back against selfie tourism. Now, when you first read this, you think, okay, fine. I mean, but before we go into it, I suppose, Sarah, have you ever been a selfie tourist? Are you ever been a selfie hunter? Like, I have to go and stand next to the perfect waterfall or the perfect sunset.
You're going to be surprised by my answer, Leo, but absolutely not. And in fact, many places I get to, and I'm like, why are there so many people at that one point? And my friends will be like, oh, it's like a selfie spot. And I'm like, well, that's stupid. It's equally beautiful over here. What the hell's wrong with all these people? No, I am not a selfie tourist. I rarely take photos. Most of the photos I have are because someone else took them. When I go on vacation, I just don't care. I don't really do Instagram. Like, I have one. I never post anything unless it's a repost that somebody put a cute picture of me. And no. So I am, although I will admit I am swayed to go to some destinations by things that I see on Instagram, but not self. It's more like content, right? So like seeing a video of somewhere or like a reel of photos of incredible places. But like as soon as somebody's face is in it, it's a no for me. So before I dig into it, I'll say this. I was in Las Vegas, and there was with work, and we drove to the sign, and I couldn't believe the queue to go and to get your photo at the Las Vegas sign, because all I did was I kind of didn't stand in the queue, but angled myself in a different way, and I could still get pretty much the same photo. And I just left, and it was so bizarre. Anyway, maybe I've just come up with a hack. Everyone will be doing my hack now, guys, in Las Vegas. But there you go. We're being a bit silly here because we know it's part of this general overall sort of strategy of getting social media influencers to promote destinations. So on first look, this article wasn't what it seemed, actually, because it seems that the Balearic Island tourism board was actually actively engaging with social media influencers and trying to get them to drive crowds away from drive crowds away from the usual destinations and take them to the less seen parts of the island, which I think is just really, really interesting. It proves how powerful a pull social media is and how much of a pull influencers are. But as a consequence,
There's a couple of places now that they cite here. One of them, apologies for the pronunciation, Calo de Moro in Mallorca has suddenly become overwhelmed, attracting up to 4,000 visitors a day. This has huge issues because it doesn't have the infrastructure to support getting 4,000 visitors a day. Same thing in Ibiza. They're pulling people away to different parts, and actually the ecological damage it might be causing is significant. Focusing in on the social media part, actionable insights. I always like to think about it like this. Guys, we've got in the industry, we've got to be using influencers. We've got to be pulling them into our villas, our apartments, our townhouses, whatever your market is, and do features around them. Like, they've got to be worth a free stay because it's saying how significant they are. But then doesn't this just come back to what we often talk about, Sarah, which is if you're an authority, a local authority, you've got to really try and take an active approach to the area that you want to build. Where is it we want the crowds to go? And here it seems like what's been a really good attempt has backfired hugely because they don't have the infrastructure to support it. In a broader point, if you think of a resort town, let's say Benidorm, for example, it's so well set up for tourists. And they can handle so many tourists on the beach. They have, 50 people a day walking around cleaning the beach. They have the streets are swept. The bars are booming. Ecologically, it's probably better to have all those people in one place in a way that you can manage them rather than suddenly all spread out into the hills if you haven't built the infrastructure to support it. So it asks a sort of broader question is like, how do you deal with that? Like what is the best way to do it as a town? But clearly, if you're going to suggest that social media influencers should be promoting a certain part of your town, at least make sure that you've got the infrastructure to support it if it goes well, right? What do you think?
I think they had no idea the power that social media actually has. I think it was one of those like, oh, we'll just get, I can see this happening, right? And see it, probably some older white guys in there think, what about these influencers? Let's get some of these influencers in there and get them to go somewhere else. And they're going to do that. And then they have no idea. And they're like, well, why is everybody coming? We don't understand, because they don't understand how it works. I guarantee you that's exactly what happens. So they're probably thinking like, how do we get people away from the places that are too busy? Let's take them to other places that are like fine. And then it just blew up. But yeah, they'd absolutely backfired on them. And now they're actively telling influencers like they're stopping a lot of their agreements with influencers. They're no longer engaging with them because it's too much. So,
well, where my mind goes is there's a shortcut here, right? There's a shortcut for these up and coming destinations that really are trying to attract visitors is just lean into the social media influencer, because it's quite cost effective, right? It's not, you're offering free stays, you're offering, it's one or two people versus like the whole infrastructure that you might need for a different type of marketing distribution. We talked a few weeks ago about these new up and coming destinations. I hope we'll have some interesting data as the summer progresses to see where the tourists have actually gone. But yeah, I'd say if we could link that to which areas have been hit, what's everyone talking about on social media versus what does the data say, I'm sure the two things are going to correlate. I'm sure of it. And I have been hearing the chatter about, I don't know if you've been hearing it as well in Spain, but people are talking, it's Croatia again. Everyone seems to be talking about Croatia again, but I am hearing about slightly lesser known destinations like Montenegro. That does seem to be being talked about. Yeah, but again, I can't deny it. Everyone seems to be going to Croatia as per the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, I think Croatia is soon going to become just another like Barcelona or something. You know what I mean? It's going to be another Costa Brava kind of vibe where it's too expensive. I mean, I went 3 years ago, I guess, and I found it more expensive than Barcelona. It's like, well, I should have stayed home. What did I do?
Yeah. the Game of Thrones effect, honestly. Alrighty, cool. Well, look, we really wanted to get into this next article because we wanted to do the Spain stuff just because it's important and we know it's what people are talking about. But you can expect a lot of this over the summer. So again, we're not going to talk about it every week because it's a bit of a tabloid conversation that always seems to happen when people start booking their holidays. But again, felt like we had to do it today because there's some significant stuff going on in Spain. Sarah, tell us though the article we really wanted to dig into. What are we talking about today?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is an article from FocusWire, which is talking about real-time availability in pricing. Is it going to change hospitality distribution? And in particular, using AI. So essentially what the article talks about is right now, as I've already complained about, You go and try and book a holiday using AI, and what it tells you is typically prices range between this to this for your dates of stay or during this month. But actually, those prices can be vastly different. And so what really is going to be a game changer for AI booking engines in particular is the ability to see real-time prices on all of these properties, which means that if people are seeing real-time prices, that then gives a lot more onus on the owners of the properties, on the managers of these properties, to make sure that pricing is up to date. And it also means that it could open up a new world where this has happened in hotels for years, right? Where they're able to adjust rates based on demand, based on searches, based on how many people are looking at the accommodation. Like, it's so much more sophisticated in general than historically for a short-term rental. Normally, short-term rentals, like, there are locations where people don't even update their pricing daily, unless they're using a dynamic pricing tool, much less multiple times a day. So I think it could open up a whole new world of, which I don't know if it's good for the consumer, but it could open up a whole new world of actual real-time pricing, not only in the AI engines, so the AI engines actually being able to come up with real prices, which I think is, for me, it's key to them being able to actually get people to book, right? If I'm not going to use an AI booking engine, if the prices are arranged and then I go on the website and it's actually 20% more, because then that means my whole budget that I gave the AI booking engine is shot, especially if it's a longer stay. But this could be huge. So if the AI booking engines can get this right, and they're able to actually collect real-time prices, wow, it's going to be a Pandora's box of adjusting rates and doing that based on demand. And I think it's exciting for operators. I think it's definitely something huge for our industry that historically has kind of lagged in a lot more of this like real-time pricing. I think we could learn a lot from hotels. I think there is infrastructure in place that we could learn from, but I don't know how replicable it is, especially for like a smaller owner operator, unless the dynamic pricing tools are gonna adapt to keep up with this. So I don't know. I thought it was super interesting. What about you, Leo?
Yeah, it's super interesting. It's super interesting, and I know we're going to talk about it very, very, very regularly as these tools are starting to come out. First thing, it obviously is a big challenge to the OTA model. If you believe that you could have an AI agent booking your holiday for you, or you could have an AI agent speaking to the AI agent on the booking site, and you could have an agent on agent conversation, and everyone is just sat on the beach sort of letting that happen. So, that sort of feels quite far from where we are currently, right? As in, having your agent book everything for you. And it comes back to the word trust for me. Trust that the thing that you're booking is what it says it is. And that is just going to take a minute for humans to catch up and believe in that technology. So when I'm on Google, I instinctively think that Google are showing me that. Sadie, hello, sweetie. Yeah, I'm just doing the podcast. Do you want to say hi quickly? Yeah.
Hi, Sadie.
Hi. Is there anything you want to say to the audience? Anything you want to say to the audience, sweetie? That's really good. Great. So look, Daddy's got to do 5 more minutes, and then I'll come and play with you. Yeah. Give Sarah a big wave. Yeah.
Bye, Sadie.
So the word is trust. Can you as a consumer trust that what you're looking at is in fact what it says it is, or it's not a scam website? So how does AI make that distinction? If the rate looks too good to be true, a human eye would go, that's too good to be true. So, there's the big thing around trust, but that's just user behavior. That will come because when I'm on Google, when we're Googling something, we instinctively know we're probably going to be driven to the best price because that's how Google wants to work, right? That's how a search algorithm would work. Find me the source of truth about this. And where I think short-term rental struggle is, because you might just have 4 or 5 listings, it's hard to get traction on your website versus Hilton, Marriott, that can pull people directly to their direct booking websites that feel secure, that feel like your credit card details are not going to be replicated. You're not going to find a bank charge 3 months later from a part of the world you've never visited because you used a website that actually was having problems. So there is a huge opportunity for short-term rental in this. I know the article itself is about hotels, but thinking about short-term rentals, huge opportunity because if your website is safe, or if there's a platform that allows you, for example, your PMS here, because we're talking about They call it. I was researching this last night. Found it really, really interesting. The shift between a model context protocol, which I'd never heard of until last night, but I find it very, very interesting. Please Google it if you don't know what it is. Which lets large language models pull data from a variety of systems simultaneously so they can all speak to each other. So your revenue management software, your PMS, your booking engine. So, you could have a future where you actually don't need to worry too much about your direct booking website, because if you're using a PMS, they'll be able to pull everything from your PMS all the way through to booking it. And that would always potentially give the AI agent the confidence that it's a real listing because it's on one of the major PMSs. So it completely changes the game, right? For distribution. But I think it's probably more likely that certainly for a while, people are going to use AI tools to help speed up searching for a property, but they're still going to want to do it themselves, right? Like, I don't think we're going to completely want to hand over control and just go, yeah, just book me something. Don't spend more than £800 for the week. Don't spend more than, make sure it's next to the beach. Just book it and then have an interaction for me. I think it is going to be prompts. It is going to be prompts for a while. Either way, big opportunity, because if we're in a world of prompts, you still have the chance with live availability to pull in the most, for the AI agent to pull in the most cost-effective version of that accommodation that they can find, right? So it is very, very interesting. I think the journey there is going to be super exciting. I'll make a strange comparison, but it's like autonomous vehicles, right? Like, people quite like being in the driving seat, but they like all the technology to be around them. I feel like that's where we are going to be with the booking journey for a while. So if you think about that and think that the days of potentially someone scrolling down to the bottom page of the search, the search they've just done, are over, you have to think about how you can get your property to the top of that AI prompt. And I think that there's a whole load of implications around marketing and what that means for the advertising revenue of somebody like Google. As you said, it's a Pandora's box. But I think it's very exciting.
Yeah, I still wonder as well, because we know the OTAs are such big customers of Google, are they going to send traffic to people's direct booking sites for the little guys? Or are they going to continue to send the traffic to the OTAs? Are they all going to be in?
If they can monetize it as effectively, why not? But it's the journey to that. It's the journey to get there, isn't it? That's challenging.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's a lot easier to appease one customer that accounts for 60% of your revenue than it is to appease hundreds of thousands, potentially, of hosts, right? So I don't know. I don't know that it's good for the little guy. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I made that point about PMSs. It might be it might not happen, but it does make me think that in this new, if there is AI agents doing more of the leading on finding accommodation and pulling people in, suddenly a PMS could be viewed as an OTA quite significantly, because the agent's is not looking at the marketing. They're going to be looking at the details. The PMS has all of that. They actually have more details and more of a back end connection, and it drives you into whatever payment gateway you've decided to use and gets you booking directly there. So it's almost like walking around a warehouse to buy something, as opposed to walking around the shop front where everything's been laid out beautifully. And I do wonder if that is, in the short term, is where we will be, right? So the AI agent is doing that hard work for you, so you don't necessarily need to go to an OTA which is presenting it all for you. However, I guess in my heart of hearts, I assume, at least from the word go, for now, people will still default to OTAs, and their tools will try and keep you within their ecosystem and try and speed up search such that you feel like you're having an AI experience which is very curated, because they're able to, you type into the search bar of an OTA, find me a villa with a pool, £800 in Ibiza, and you'll have it presented to you. So I think it's fascinating, actually.
No, I love this one. Let's see where it goes.
All right, guys, look, I think we'll call it there. Sarah, so lovely to see you, my friend.
Same here, buddy.
Enjoy a couple of days of not partying. Good for you. And to you at home, if you've enjoyed today's show, please hit like, share, subscribe in all the usual social places. Until next week, many thanks. Goodbye.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.